additional resources as follows. 163,284 million additional for the budget. Transport 664 million, which is additional 32% of the budget. And both these additional resources could only be spent from December 2023 to the end of this financial year, which is 31st of March 2024, and the in place to spend the allocations in full. The plans are as follows. Analyzing the expansion of frontline services to TISH, which is 55.7 million, and settling the invoices for gazetting of operating license, which is 30 million. And then also settling all invoices for the new number plate project, which is 7.8 million, procurement of consumable to municipalities, DLTCs and MVRAs, which is 30 million, settling all the payments for municipality services, which is 60 million, paying the legal costs that were not allocated with resources at the start of the financial year, that only received resources during the adjustment budget of 30 million, finalizing and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which is 2 million, settling the software licenses that are due to the eGov, which is 20 million. The payments will be made in the fourth quarter. Honourable Chairperson and members, the usual payments for compensation of employees and other goods and services that are paid monthly will also be made until the end of this financial year. The department is confident that the budget will be fully spent, Honourable Chairperson and members. On question 8, the department should provide a plan to spend more than 40% balance of budget in the administration program and transport regulation program on the fourth quarter. On our responses, we say for administration spending, the biggest cost driver of the current 23% unspent budget is in building maintenance. There is all that.
Also, part of the CapEx expenditure, we had budgeted for warehouse identification, because the whole process was to move the functions closer to where the delivery points were, and that entailed identifying warehouses across the different corridors. And then one was then to identify or to implement an ICT software space, which was then going to assist in the rollout of the logistics function. So that was how the budget was then influenced in terms of the 20 million. Chairperson, on question 15 was the adjusting downwards in terms of the status that these orders will be delivered to the latter part in March, as well as the new financial. Had experienced an oversupply of vehicles, so manufacturers run a particular and in that regard, quite a lot of the vehicles became available, which meant that the order book dates had then moved much more closer, and hence we had this overspending within that particular area. We have subsequently addressed that with a further revision of the budget, which the MEC had approved for us, so that we can continue to ensure that the supplies are paid on time. And the transport services is predominantly related to the West Bank, which is the operator for the RT46. There were improvements that we had to effect as part of the audit, last audit outcome, in order to reconcile invoices timelessly and improve on those areas. We had then declined some of the invoices that West Bank had given us due to the lack of additional information. Those were then subsequently processed in this third quarter. And I think question 17, Chair, relates also again to the permanent services, that it is showing a high trend of overspending. The response is quite similar in terms of the MEC, which has subsequently addressed that concern.
If Mr. Stembiso can help me with the flighting on those two questions. While it's loading, there are for the department to provide update on the finalization of the organizational structure, and the other one is to report on the current state of subsidized bus services in Gauteng. Yeah, that one. Yes. All right, it's to provide, the department to provide an update on the finalization of organizational structure. Honourable Chairperson, members and committee members, the response from the department is that the organizational structure for both the G-Fleet and the GRT, we have done consultations with the branches within the department. The Office of the Premier has effected the changes as per the consultations that we did within the department. The steering committee meetings with organized labor, OOP, and management will be held on the 12th of March to the 13th of March. And the management is also in the process of reviewing the job profiles for the job evaluation purposes. The final organizational structure for G-Fleet and the department is ready for pre-consultation with the DPSA. The organizational structure will be submitted to the DPSA via OOP for consideration, and OOP has committed to start with change management sessions for both the department and G-Fleet. Then the second additional question is to report on the current state of subsidized bus services in Gauteng. The department is responding as follows. The negotiation process was concluded on the 30th of June 2023. All bus operators signed and submitted the contract documents. Currently, the department is busy with the phase 2 of the contract, which is the completion of contract schedule and subcontracting. Only NWS has submitted, has subcontracted Transnet and Triponza at 35% of the monetary value of the contract. The NWS subcontracting commenced on the 3rd of November 2023. The NWS is Northwest Bus, and the department is currently completing the evaluation process of JR Cheu and PATCO subcontracting. In terms of contract schedules, operators have submitted all the requested documents, and the files are currently being reviewed by the negotiation team. Thanks, Honourable Chairperson. These are the responses from the department on the questions that were raised.
Okay, is that everything?
Yes, that's in terms of the questions posed, Honourable Chairperson.
But there's other presentations.
I don't know if we can proceed with the presentation.
Yeah, let's deal with everything. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. We can go to let's go to Photo Roads. Photo Roads, where is it? Honourable Chairperson, we can start with the presentation on the 40 roads, which is Mfuleni. Extensive work on the ground, and we also identify some of the risks that we felt should be taken into account. You know, the disruption of the project by communities and SMMEs, but this is mainly due sometimes don't do properly. But on
the P31, I'm very disappointed with that. We've kept on being told that the P31, which is the expansion of Beyers Naudé Drive from Zandspruit through to the N14. There's lots of accusations about that contractor, but nothing is being told to us. So next week, we really want a proper update on this road. What's happening with this contractor? It started and they just left everything in the middle of the work. Problem in that area. And this committee has been told that a new contractor was supposed to be in place already. And when you come before us next week as a committee, can we understand why are the delays? What is the reason for the delays? In fact, sections of that road, I travelled on that road last night. I came back late from a meeting in Zardville, and it was raining. You can hardly see. It's narrow. In some sections, you're driving on the other side of the road. The plastic barriers all over have fallen all over the place. And I think we need to get an understanding as to what's being done on that road. G-Fleet, you talk about funds that have been redistributed to other programs or other units. So when you come back to us, you spoke us about the office of the CEO, and I think it's the office of the CFO or something like that. There were two offices where you say you've redirected funds. When you meet with us next week, please tell us where these funds have gone to, because we're not being told where these funds have been redirected to. I think just on the Vereeniging taxi rank, I think it's now welcome news that in terms of phase 2, the contractor will be on site. You say on the 11th, next week. Okay. So that's good news. Grass cutting, you give us regions, but you don't tell us what areas they cover. And I know in the area where I stay, I've repeatedly been asking for a particular stretch of road for the grass to be cut, but there's just no response. So, and I don't even know if that's covered by anywhere. So I think we need to get an understanding. These regions, what do they cover? And who covers in between? Because that's becoming a real problem. Traffic signals, well, you talk about vandalism, and I agree with you, DDG. In the area where I stay, I'm going to give you the intersections here. The intersection of Beaconsfield Drive and Northumberland Road, stroke Christian de Wet Road. The intersection of Beaconsfield Drive and Honeydew Road West. Those two robots, and then the Malibongwe Drive robots, they start from Witkoppen and they go all the way down to the N1. There are people there that direct traffic. Firstly, they're not qualified to direct traffic. Secondly, they often cause major accidents because they just don't know what they're doing. But thirdly, the one robot I'm mentioning now is an example. And I think when you come to us next week, we need to know what is it the department's going to do and how is it going to work with law enforcement agencies. Beaconsfield Drive and Northumberland Road. That robot has been fixed probably about 2 or 3 times in the last 2 months. And the minute that robot is fixed, you see these guys sitting under the trees around that robot with their reflector jackets. And the only thing I can suspect, they are waiting to hit that robot. They are waiting to deactivate that robot. The robot on Beaconsfield Drive and Honeydew Road West. Residents in that area have actually said to me they have seen people fiddling with the cables on the robot. Now, so you say to us that vandalism, but what is the department doing? How are we going to address this problem? Because whilst these individuals, and what happens, motorists throw money at them, and then they forget about directing traffic, and they run around trying to pick up this money off the road. It's a nightmare. And I really think we need to get an understanding, what is the plan to catch these individuals? Because surely a robot that is fixed 2-3 times within a space of a week or 2 or 3-4 weeks is an indication something's going on. But we're not hearing from the department, how are you interacting with law enforcement agencies? What is the plan to try and deal with this? what these individuals who vandalize robots don't understand. They are having a major impact on the economy of Gauteng, because it means goods can't get to on time, people can't get to work on time, workers can't get to work on time, and then you find that the obeyance of traffic, of the laws, rules of the road, just disappear. You see taxis driving over pavements, people doing U-turns in the middle of the road, etc. And I just think it's becoming a problem. So what we'd like to hear next week, DDG, is just who is the department talking to? Because some of these intersections are known. They are known. And it's known that these individuals are tampering with the robots. I'm told they push things up the robot pole and then they pull the cables down to deactivate the robots. And if we're not going to interact with law enforcement agencies, it's not the role of the department yourself to go and sit there. But we've got law enforcement agencies. Surely there has to be some kind of plan as to how to catch these individuals, or just move them out of the area and keep on patrolling there. It's not every robot. There are specific, I'm sure you're aware, there are specific robots which are repeat offenders in terms of having to be repaired and maintained. And I just think we need that update as to what's the plan. But the other thing is that, DDG, and I think this is where we would need a response next week, a more detailed response. You have an email address called trafficsignals@gauteng.gov.za, I think it is. Wherever I drive, if I pick up a robot's not working, I pull over somewhere where I can and I send it through on the email address. Very quick to get a response, to get a reference number. But I can tell you the response to repair sometimes is 2-3 weeks. So I think we need to get an update as to how we're going to deal with this. And what you find, you send a long list of robots and then one gets repaired and the rest get left. It's almost to say, no, let's just do one robot. And this person, whoever reported it, will think we've done our job. So I think, can we have a more detailed response next week, DDG? And I think we need more information on this power supply and security of signals and this engagement with, I guess, shopping centres and so on that you say is being led by JRA. We've never been briefed on this before. And I do think we need a more in-depth briefing next week to thoroughly understand what is this about. Because in our various constituencies, we may want to then play that role in going to engage and linking them up with yourselves. So I think if we can get more information. So I think let's stop there. Oh yes, the last one quickly that we want you to answer next week. These 33 decommissioned robots you talked about, which you say is a problem. What we need to understand, where are these? And what is being put in place? Is it a four-way stop street, or what is it? So I think we welcome the presentations, but I think when we meet next week, members, if you're in agreement, that we ask the department to give us detailed responses to some of the things that we're raising, because we need to have a thorough understanding as to some of the plans and the implementations. But other than that, DDG, thank you very much for the presentation. Much appreciated, but I think we'll await more in-depth engagements next week when we meet in Diepsloot for the K46. So I think let's close there unless members have got more questions. All right. On that note then, members, let's thank the department and the team. I think next week we would also like another engagement with the Gautrain as well. I know we didn't have, I don't think we had questions for the Gautrain, but I think we had one last engagement. Next week is our last committee meeting of this legislature for us in this committee, and we would want a more in-depth discussion on some of the issues around the Gautrain as well. So on that note, thanks DDG and the team, thank you very much. And we'll obviously meet again next week. So if we can arrange that, please, that they the department comes to us next week. So on that note, I'm going to move straight over to the next section of the agenda, and that is the public hearings, the hearings we've got. As a portfolio committee, we've got 3 bills before us. The Railway Safety Bill, we've got that has been forwarded to us to the hang on. No, Mr. Mbiso, just quickly. Sorry, I just want to check something with Mr. Mbiso quickly. Sorry. Sorry, my sincere apologies for that. We were just quickly checking on how we're going to proceed. I understand that on the Railway Safety Bill, which is the first bill we're going to go through, let me just explain to our guests that are here and stakeholders. As a portfolio committee, the National Council of Provinces has referred 3 bills to us to deal with. The one is the Railway Safety Bill, then it's the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill, and the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill. These are bills that were passed by the National Assembly in Parliament in Cape Town, were then referred to the National Council of Provinces, and the National Council of Provinces, through their process, has referred them to each of the provinces. And so here in Gauteng, we've got these bills with us. So in terms of the Railway Safety Bill, the provincial department was supposed to make a presentation to us on the Railway Safety Bill. And I understand that the person that was supposed to make that presentation is not here. Come on, guys, really. All right. So What we are going to do, honourable members, again because we started late, we're going to firstly deal with the Railway Safety Bill and the National Department of Transport, led by the Deputy Director General, Mr. Nwako Makayipia. I hope I've got that right. I've been practicing it since last week. Is going to take us through the Railway Safety Bill. We will then open up for questions to members and to those of you who are in attendance here for any questions on this Railway Safety Bill. It's actually a new bill. It's not an amendment bill, it's a new bill that's coming to us. Once we've dealt with that, we will then move to the next other two bills we've got. We've got the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill, same thing. We'll take the presentation, we'll open up for questions. And then the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill. So that's how we're going to handle it. Now, the way it works, just to explain quickly, whatever inputs are made here in terms of this public hearing, those points that you raise in relation to the particular bill then will form part of the report of the committee, and we would also look as to whether those are recommendations or whether they're just comments, and whether it actually has any substance in changing the current amendment bill or bill that's before the committee. So I just wanted to explain that. The second two bills that we're dealing with are short bills, and the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill is really dealing with pollution caused by vessels and ships in the ocean. It not dealing with rivers or anything like that. But so what I want to do, Deputy Director General, once again, thank you very much. We appreciate the commitment and just the way in which the National Department always responds to our requests, particularly when we're dealing with bills. And it's always a pleasure to interact with yourselves. And so without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Deputy Director General, to take us through the Railway Safety Bill. And it will be flighted on the screens here as well, so that we can follow. And thereafter, we'll open for questions. Thank you so much, DDG.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Let me greet you and the Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, colleagues from government, national, RSR, and the provincial departments, stakeholders from the Gauteng province, especially Badudi, Sedibeng. Good morning, Dumelang, Dimacheroni, Abusheni, Huyemore. My name is Nwako Makayipia. I work for the Department of Transport. I appreciate the opportunity given by the committee to come and present the National Rail Safety Bill and what we seek to achieve. In terms of the background, like Chair said, it's a new bill, but we currently have the National Railway Safety Regulator Act, which is an act of 2002, which is the current legislation we have in the country that is regulating safety. So that legislation was developed in 2002 with the establishment of the Railway Safety Regulator, when this function of rail safety regulation was getting migrated from state-owned entity into an independent institution, which is the RSR. And the organization has been in existence for a number of years. And as part of the work that we do in the department, looking whether the laws that we have seeks to deliver on their mandate, we conducted what we call a regulatory safety gap analysis to really look at whether the legislation, which is the National Railway Safety Regulator Act, was really still delivering to the mandate that we have promulgated it for. Really, some of those challenges or the gaps that we found out was issues around the lack of clarity amongst the role players within the railway industry, being that of the operators, which the officials of the regulator. And there were some funding element was this absence of a framework that regulates the licensing of safety critical grade. Those people that are interested or involved in rail safety critical grade in charge of the movement of trail, including the signal systems, which is a key our trails. And there were issues that were even raised by the stakeholders, which is the lack of the CEO and the board, what then becomes another additional element so that our stakeholders must not run to the courts. And lastly, how do we then add an independent element on the index to repeal the current legislation that is regulating railway safety in the Republic? And what we seek to achieve with the bill is to make sure that there is an improvement across the railway regulatory environment introduced, which really addressing what becomes our problem statement and what are those key issues that the bill seeks to deal with. That if you were to look at the railway safety environment, especially starting from 2002, the establishment of the railway safety regulator, there have been a number of developments and major railway investment that has happened. I mean, one of the key ones, especially within the Gauteng province, is the Gautrain. When Gautrain was introduced, it was introduced in a way that it was no longer a traditional method of where government itself ran the state entity, but there was a concessionaire which has been introduced, which is through Bombela Operating Company. And we had to, obviously as the department with the rail safety regulator, try to find a way of who does become the permit holder, who pays for the permits, because there is an owner of the asset, but there is an operator of the asset on behalf of the provincial government. And the second of those instances were the PRASA modernization program, where you then had the Gibela appointed together with Alstom, which is an international company. And some of the people in those responsible areas were coming from other countries outside of South Africa, and their training and the models that they have done were different from what we then did. I think we therefore struggled with how to deal with those particular elements that we see them introducing the risk in our system. And lastly was the TFR locomotive program with the Chinese counterpart, which was really bringing some of those dynamics. So these dynamics and initiatives of theirs have presented various dynamics in terms of regulating safety, one in terms of training and the technology, and therefore the RSR had to find some way beyond the legislation to complement what we have. And in this legislation, we seek to then make those introduction for that. And the other element which really made us to really deal with these issues was the state of safety report, which we are mandated to produce through the regulator in terms of legislation. And the majority of the rail incidents that we have obviously able to come out in terms of either the abort inquiries or the element that comes out of the state of safety report is really as a result of human error with drivers passing the red signaling. And if community can remember, we have actually had a big train incident which happened around the area of Gauteng province of a Shisholoza Mail, where a real human error, either through the drivers, but even at our railway crossing, becoming a problem. But again, lack of training over the years in terms of refresher training of the drivers and continuous understanding of the route. So we believe these are some of those key elements that we are solving or are trying to address as part of the bill. And we believe that we will be able to achieve, and you'll see that when we talk to some of the elements in the bill, it really alludes to those elements. Looking at the objectives of the bill, it's really to then say that the bill, when you look at it, even though it's a new bill, because it repealed the Railway Safety Regulator Act, it retained a number of elements which are crucial in the Act. But what we are doing is really providing a better clarity, especially introducing some of the new concepts that will be able to enhance railway safety, which I'll deal with in the body of the bill. We therefore recognize the role of operators in managing railway safety and those implementing measures to ensure that the RSR as an oversight body can be able to play that oversight role. We therefore promote railway safety in the country through improved regulatory framework, which will be some of the regulations that we'll be introducing, which really talks to the element of improving rail safety. And the bill focuses on safety as an outcome to provide road safety operations and amongst all the players, so that we therefore promote rail safety as the bill that really, or the mode of transport across there. In terms of the approach for the bill, it's real. The focus is really on railway safety, and we are saying the focus is on rail safety because we know, with our experience, there might be other issues that are affecting our communities, which are broader rail issues but goes beyond safety. And we just want to make sure that on this one, the key elements where we are focusing on rail safety. And the Act provides for a flexible, enabling framework to be able to deal with safety. It is very clear in terms of plain English, and we have really revamped the section that deals with governance, and we have aligned it fully with the DBSA guideline on the appointment of boards and CEOs of state entities. And we are really following that procedure from appointment into how we then dismiss those particular non-executive board members. The objectives of the Act, the objects of the Act, which are in clause 3 of the bill, is really how do we enable operators to undertake railway safety operations to avoid accidents, and introducing the regulatory tools, which are really the regulators, the standards, and some of the guidelines that the railway safety regulator will have to deal with, and to ensure that there's clear collaborations amongst the collaboration with the interested parties, which will be the operators, the railway safety regulators, and the communities which some of these railway operators takes place. And how does the railway safety regulators themselves as an entity go even in these communities to make sure that there is awareness programs in terms of the regulatory tools that we really want to implement. The bill introduced and facilitated a modern and flexible, efficient regulatory regime to ensure that there's continuous enhancements in terms of safety, and introducing other elements beyond the physical boot and the men on the ground towards technology on how do we have integrated rail operations. And what we then do in this bill, we want to promote harmonization of railway safety regime in the Republic, but again within other regulators within the SADC, because out of the 250-something odd permit operators that the railway safety regulator manages, we have our operators from SADC, which is some from Mozambique, which is CFM and Botswana Railways, which have permit, and we have played a very critical role to ensure that we make sure that the standards and the guidelines that we implement in the country, there is interoperability elements within our within SADC community. And what we then do, we make sure that within the suppliers and those that are of equipment and infrastructure within SADC, we can be able to deal with those particular issues. The application is really unchanged. It applies to the operation of railways between freight and passenger within the Republic, and it really clarifies again how do we then work with concurrent legislations amongst the sector. In terms of clause 5 of the bill, we really deals with the issues of governance, where the bill itself continues with the existence of the railway safety regulator. The functions that are in the current legislations remains, but they are crafted differently with better clarity. And to clarify what really the railway safety regulator exists for, and the functions, the powers of the RSR are therefore amplified, divided into those that are mandatory functions and the discretionary functions, and we therefore use the must and the may elements in the bill to be able to demonstrate that. And the RSR, on behalf of government, implement and administer some international agreements, especially when they relate to railway safety, especially with those countries in the world that the government has some bilateral agreements to be able to make sure that we benchmark our railway safety regime amongst the best, but obviously coining them to make sure that those are solutions to the country. Moving to that section on the board in the bill, we really talks to, and especially they talk between clause 9 to clause 20 of the bill, is really about the governance process, starting with how do we then nominate the bill, the board in terms of the process, being a transparent process that we therefore take out there in the public and gazette for members to be able to apply, and the numbers that we really talks to is between 7 and 13 members, majority of those being non-executive members, and we clarify in the bill the kind of requirements and the expertise that they must be able to have, which is understanding of the railway environment, engineering, financial element, including those of corporate governance, and we classify the term of office being a 3-year term, which is renewable, and members are able to serve 2 consecutive terms, and we talk to the disqualification criteria when the board members are not able to do have conflict of interest, and what then becomes the process of the minister working together with the board to appoint the chief executive officer, and how do we make sure that in this time we have provided strong ministerial oversight and for the ministry, but again the extended dismissal provision, so that if the board is not able to really dispatch their responsibility, we can be able to discharge them. And I think one of the key elements that we have introduced, and I know where we have consulted has been raised, is that the Auditor General performs the audits to make sure that there's health element within our organizations, and if the board cannot be able to really take those serious and make sure that we have clean audits, we have introduced this element that will be able to discharge them of their responsibilities, and what are those administrative processes where they are not doing their work, will be able to dismiss them. And we have introduced an element in this bill of what are those governance tools between the minister and the board to make sure that the minister take them accountable, and they annually have to conclude a performance agreement detailing how they are going to run the organization, including their APP and the performance and the targets with the sign with the minister, and we have really clearly outlined what are those functions of the board, which are really clear, how they must conduct themselves in terms of the board committees, and how they work together with the CEO to appoint the staff of the railway safety regulator, which then becomes the instruments or those colleagues that then make sure that the strategy and the regulatory framework that we therefore define and is able to be implemented. We have Chair, Honourable members, and the community made sure that in this bill, based on the challenges that I've spoken about, we've really expanded on the section that talks to the funds of the railway safety regulator, because when those initiatives was introduced, it was difficult to even know how do we then charge, especially making sure that the regulator in their functions, they're able to then obviously recoup their cost, either their travel and professional cost in that. But what we want to explain to the community is that the railway safety regulator doesn't make profit. They therefore charge the fees for administrative function, for those functions that they need to do. What we are capturing is in the bill is really the money appropriated by Parliament, which is the grant that we dispatch as the Department of Transport, the fees that are specified in terms of Section 66, which are the permit fee. Currently, in the current legislation, they are done in terms of Section 23(2)A of the National Railway Safety Regulator Act, And if you want to introduce levies through money bill by the Minister of Finance, which is really some of those elements, alignment to other regulators in the industry, which is in maritime by SAMSA, and in the aviation industry through the Civil Aviation Authority. And lastly, any specialized services that we introduce. For example, currently we have the White Paper on National Rail Policy that was approved by Cabinet in March 2022, which will therefore allow us to bring third-party operators in our rail network, and the Railway Safety Regulator becomes an enabler and a key a state entity to play in that element, and we have made sure through a special gazette that will be able to be catered. Moving to the next slide, which is really talking to the safety permits. You'll know, honourable members and the community, that it becomes an offence in the country to be able to run a railway operator without a permit or a license, and the Railway Safety Regulator becomes that body that undertakes to then license everyone. And we have made sure in this bill we provide for those categories of the permits that we need to deal with: the train operator, the station operator, the network operator, which is the infrastructure operator. And in the case of Gautrain, like we said, we have now added an element of a concessionaire, so that if any state of entity wants to have any other person who then runs a rail operation on their behalf, whether it's freight or passenger, we know how is that catered in that particular element aligned to our policy regime. We therefore in this bill clarify that the holder of the permit must then pay the safety permits annually in line with section 66 of the bill, obviously explaining the kind of operations that they have to be able to deal with, and the validity of the period. Obviously that will be necessitated by the safety management system that they'll be able to support and submit to the Railway Safety Regulator. And the railway safety operator, after doing that analysis, will then obviously inform the operator. We are clarifying that the validity of the permit will be 3 to 5 years, and obviously the operator will then specify whether is there any conditions that are applicable with regard to that. And the permits themselves have some conditions. One will be those that are mandatory. Secondly, those that are in line with the risk that the regulator will have found in our environment. And to just classify that permit is non-transferable, and we have specified what then becomes those conditions and the event which are in the bill for surrender, suspension and revocation of those particular permit, which are really being enforced in detail in the regulation, which is the permit safety regulation that we will develop. A new element that we are introducing that I've talked to, that came out of the gap analysis, which is the safety critical grade framework. We're therefore saying, because the RSR is responsible for safety, they'll be responsible for overseeing the management of and execution of the safety critical position framework, which I have already explained. That is our train drivers, those that are responsible for signaling and the movement of trains. Then what the RSR will then do in the next regime, they'll be able to register training institution and license, so that if there's any incident that happens, we're able to respond as government, whether those people who were driving, piloting the trains are really licensed and they've gone through refresher training, so that we can be able to eliminate the issue of human error. And the RSR will then collaborate with TITA in terms, and the schools in terms of the curriculum, because they are better placed to be able to represent government on the understanding of the safety regime. And they will be able to have this database, and there'll be a period every 5 years where they'll be able to come and renew, update, and produce a certificate that those people are still fit and proper, and they've gone through the necessary retraining to deal with those particular issues. So we're saying obviously it will be an offense for any person to be able to perform that particular function if they are not licensed accordingly. Moving to the next slides is really talking to the regulatory tools that I've talked to, which are the standards, whether it's technology that you need to come and introduce in terms of trains, in terms of locals, in terms of signaling and track. The railway safety will be able, inventions are brought in our environment, consult with communities, gazette them through that. But the safety standard will obviously be those that are introduced by government, but secondly, those that are proposed by any interested party, including the operators and those that are organizing the NGOs in the community. A safety management system is a very critical tool, that key document that the operators leave to what they've provided into, and once promulgated, the implementation of the Act, the Railway Safety Regulator and the department will roll out a national awareness session on the legislation and making sure that there's thorough compliance in terms of the operators, but at the same time for the members of the communities to be able to know what then becomes their rights in enforcing safety within the railway environment. With that said, thank you, Chair, for giving us the opportunity and the community for listening.
No, thanks very much. Without wasting any time, I want to open up straight away just to check if any of our guests here presented to us. I mean, the main issues, elements of this bill really are about and improving safety for passengers on commuter trains and in goods trains, permits, understand what they are supposed to do in terms of issues of the board, etc. So it's really, it's a bill gone through the processes of Parliament, and once it becomes enacted, will play a very important role. DDG, recently we've seen some train collisions. We don't have those kind of incidents, and to necessary mechanisms are in place to ensure the safety of various safety compliance. So I hope I've captured it correctly, DDG, and I hope that's some of the salient aspects. The car train. So the car train is not exempt from this at all. So puts or make any suggestions how you think maybe this bill could be improved. So we want to hear from yourselves. If there are no hands, it's fine. Then we take it, okay, no, because we want to hear from yourselves. So I've seen one hand there. I've seen another hand there, 3 and 4 at the back. Well, hold on. So I've got one gentleman there, a lady there, 3 person at the back with a hat, and 4. Those are the hands that I see. Correct. So I've counted 3. Where? At the back.
Yeah.
I've counted 1, 2. I've counted 4, 5. Yeah, there we are. It's the lights that's affecting here. Give long introductions. Go straight to the point, and then we'll take the next person. Thank you so much. And please give us your name, particular organization for the issue, for the recording as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. United Commuters Voice. My in Gauteng, when is it going to be done? The second question would be the bridge in Ekurhuleni, you know, the gas explosion. Has there been any replacement in regard to that damaged bridge? Thank you.
I just need to remind us, we are talking about this bill that was presented to us now. Note that, okay? But right now we are talking about this bill that was presented. Bonnie and your team, can you just take note of those questions? So, and then what we'll give you an opportunity is to. Can we take the next hand, please? The lady over here, please.
Dumelang. Nna ne ke kopa Moloi from Orange Farm. Ne ke batla ho understand se e sebediwang gore e sebediswang gore le fihle go bathong ke e feng. Utlo find out gore batho there are no road show tse di etsagala go stateilwe taba ya di scholar transport mo e leng gore I've never seen anyone a tla go addressa batho ba ba tseyang bana go ya dikolong regarding the permit e buiwang ka yone. So ke batla go understand gore di road show tse di etsiwang. And then the other one ke ya taba ya di potholes within our areas. Are sana di potholes actually we can say the parties are responsibility. Ya di koloi tse di senyegang because of the potholes tse di bang teng. Re na le problem ya di road mark. O kgone go bona gore e ke stop sign e ke hill sign or ke go etsagalang ke ntwa grass cutting. It's how often? Because of the road, the bojwamba bogolang boya ko godimo. And then le ditaba ya di SMMEs. Ke utlwe ba state taba gore ba batla go godisa di SMMEs. If project ya di grass cutting is Sebokeng, why batho ba Sebokeng ba sa be part e teng project mare gore if itlele are understand the policy and procedures tse di and even the selection criteria that is used, I really understand.
I just want to remind us that has come from Parliament to this committee about questions that are being asked. But I want to check. So the three people that are going to speak now, I hope somebody will speak on the bill. If they are going to take it that everybody is comfortable. But the department is noting the questions that are being asked. No, hang on. Whoa.
You did point it out.
Wait. The person at the back with a hand and identified you. Can we please take? Thank you.
And then could you miss about boldly? Since ke khopela portfolio committee ho tla Hamanskrala. E tlile Hamanskrala. So since from last year till to date, a gone sepe se se rahetseng hape hore ne re khopela hore ne province e puisane le masipala ho ka re lokisetsa ditsela tsa masipala. Ditsela tsa rena ga rene di road markings, di pedestrian crossings. Lebile Good Fridays mo e bile gore ne re tlo bana le di accidents tse dintsi. So ke tlo bua gape le mo e bile gore di trucka di crossing mo e bile gore ne sporo se la ga se safe at all. So gona le ditlhare mo la mo way crossing ga di khone go ka bona gore gela eng go tlhagela eng. And then
thank you, Chairperson. My name is Benjamin Sichaba. I'm the Secretary of ANC Veterans League in Winterfeld. The Rail and Safety Bill is it being done within the context of privatization? Because there are several players confirmed to. That is my question. I just want to privatization of the railway, because to my belief, and I just want to be informed whether after will there be any privatization of the railway? Thank you.
Thank you. Right in front here.
Hello, that's better. First and foremost, thanks for the bill. I'm coming from the background of the health and safety and environment. Being discussed in this bill. I don't know, maybe the reason is there is a lot of integration, maybe safety as well as environment that needs to be looked at. So if it's not addressing it properly, with the other safety and environment acts that are there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The person that stood up there, you that opportunity now. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Chair. 25 right here at Enfuleni. Do support the bill. I don't have a problem with it. But let me come as and when a representative in the senior department. And I will raise this thing for the second time. That it will be prudent that you provide us through an email or whatever, any means you can, to have a report before we could engage from that particular point. But it will be much more easier and better. Secondly, like I said that I am from Enfuleni, I will really appreciate there are two infrastructure programs which has taken place right in Vereeniging, right here in the taxi rank. A licensed department in Zone 7 or in Sedibeng, because it has been quite a while and no response, no communication from the portfolio committee. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I hand over to you, DDG, sir, the last question now. Director General from the Provincial Department of indicated to us where things stand on the Vereeniging taxi rank. The interim rank, which has been totally renewed, and he gave dates when the contractor will be on site at the phase. And secondly, on the Sedibeng DLTC, which you were talking about, there was also information given there. Portfolio committee, it's because of the insistence of this portfolio committee and an oversight visit that we've taken on a number of occasions to the interim or phase one, that phase one was totally renovated. That must happen. In fact, we were here, it was not last year, it was the year before last. 9 o'clock at night to come and see for ourselves what the place looks like at night. And to renovate and improve that rank, that phase one rank. And it was over a year ago. And the same is with the phase two. given dates when it will be completed, and the same with the Sedibeng. So I just thought I would cover that. We have been focusing on all three of those. One, phase 2 of the ranks, and the Sedibeng DLTC. We would have preferred Sedibeng DLTC was already complete. We would have been much happier, but there's a process underway. So I thought I'd just respond. Deputy Director General, do you want around issues of safety and specific questions around the bill as well, health and safety issues? And also a question around whether this bill is going to lead to private control area. So can I hand back to you? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks to the question raised. Chair, maybe just to start with the gas explosion, the bridge, is that reports to the Department of Transport. So we have been in engagement with them, especially because that bridge explosion that we're doing on resuscitation of the Davidton line, it did affect the OHTE and some of the substations. We've been told that it's one of their priorities. Work is starting. They said they'll be running the line at the end of 2024, which means the bridge, as part of the work packages, will be done in this current financial year. So we'll obviously continuously monitor it, but that's the information. Shows, Chair, we do, together with the railway safety regulator, do some awareness in terms of, especially where it talks to the railway crossings, or just even safe in terms of train. And in the past, we have partnered even with schools to make sure that we can understand. And I mean, I know even from a financial point of view, in the department, there is some programs which they do on a number of issues, and I'm sure DDG will then talk to the community has specific areas where I'd want us to come and do those if it affects the railway environment. I have even my colleagues here from the railway safety regulator, and some of those community initiatives we talk to. On the level crossing, Chair, and we have really done part of the work that we did with the department. We remember that the issue of railway crossing cuts across road and rail. If it's in a provincial road, it constructed through robots and the safety. Ourselves and the railway safety regulator and the provinces, we have actually railway crossings, but how do we then make them safer? As the National Department of Transport, the road sector, we then work with the Provincial Department of Transport. Like I said, if there's a space from the railway safety regulator, let's talk to him, let's get whether it comes within the infrastructure of PRASA, there is some safety program in that particular deal with those issues. On the railway safety bill, the bill itself, like Chair has said, is that it really provides for you need to get a permit to be able to run. You need to have your people who drive trains, who are involved in safety, they need to deal with. It has nothing to do with privatization of railways. It's about when you run railways, whether you are a state entity, whether you are from improvement in those elements, in terms of the introduction of new standards, those particular issues. So it's not really about privatization. Like I said, there is a current legislation, which is the National Railway Safety Regulation. We are making it clear and to implement it in terms of those particular issues. In terms of health and safety issues, we therefore recognize the relationship between the bill and the work that we do in terms of railway safety And if you look at clause, especially within the mining environment, which is the minerals and petroleum resources, applies within that safety environment, and we therefore recognize that relationship. And the Department of the Railway Safety Regulator, as part of those that sits on the board of the Railway Safety Regulator, the number of 7 to 30 to help us with those particular shareholder point of view. And lastly, for the
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, and thank you, general public, for allowing me to present the Maritime Safety Authority. But today I'm representing the Department of the South African Maritime Safety Authority will be the authority that will be enforcing it. Annexure 6, sorry. This slideshow that you'll have in front of you now, ocean-going vessels, large vessels at sea. The first column, marine pollution prevention, where you get air pollutants, that's regulated. So this regulates pollutants from the vessel. And the way that we do legislation is through the Marine Pollution Prevention from Ships Act of 1986. Convention on Prevention from Pollution from Ships of 1970. At that time of 1973 were only 5 annexures. Those annexures are part, except for Annexure 4, the other annexures are parts of our legislation. Annexure 6 came in at a later stage. As I said, the bill intends to bring 4. Annexure 4 deals with sewage. Annexure 6 deals with okay. The benefits is that without the sewage annexure in our legislation, and obviously you don't want that because that will introduce nutrients into our water that we don't want. With regards to Annexure 6, greenhouse effect, it's quite a popular topic these days, and obviously vessels also contribute to that, and that's greenhouse effect. And further on, it also reduces the sulfur content of the fuel that vessels can carry on board and burn on board when they're trading along our coastline. Basically, just an administrative tool which seeks to define the convene. So it's just, as I said, it's an administrative tool that's obligations on anybody. Annexure Section 2A is an introduction. What is of significance, Section 2A1, what currently happens is the MARPOL Convention gets up full parliamentary process. We will never be able to keep up to date with international conventions. So 2A, the minister made then through a notice in the Government Gazette, bring that 2B, this is also a very significant introduction in this, as specifically for the Maritime Safety Authority. We currently regulate through what we call marine notices. Those marine notices, whatever we put in them, we can't hold Joe Public accountable. However, we've now introduced what we refer to as we can enforce them on Joe Public. Sorry, jumped one. Section to make regulations in specific reference to Annexure 4 and Annexure 6. There are permitted to make regulations, however, those only limited to the current annexures that are in our legislation. Deterrent is sometimes that we use is a financial deterrent. We fine the vessels. The current maximum fine that SAMSA can impose is 500,000. We is a greater deterrent because 500,000, to be quite frank, on the international. This section is also just an administrative tool that allows the minister to convene a committee to deal with any thing that is dealt with under this act and to delegate any power, anything that is under this act to any appropriate authority. The schedule, as I said, the main purpose of the bill is to introduce Annexure 4 and 6 into our legislation. And it will be an annexure to the main Principal Act. Consultation, that obviously SAMSA, being the authority, PRASA, the port regulator, the Department of Fisheries, and various academia, and I won't go through the list, but those were all the consultations that were done by the Department of Transport. So we request input. Close, I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kemp. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I think, as I said earlier as well, this particular bill does not relate to rivers. It relates to the ocean. It relates to the sea and ships that bypass our coasts. So ships that come past Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, East London, Durban, Richards Bay, and go around Africa, the tip of Africa. So this deals with issues of pollution. And how do issues of pollution get controlled?
No potholes.
So this is talking about pollution in our oceans. And so I just want to check if there's anybody here, not potholes, not roads, but if there's anybody here that just wants to talk to this bill. That's all for now. I don't want any other hands. If you, please, if there's anybody that wants to talk on this particular bill that's just been presented now, I'll take the hand at the back there. That's the only hand. So the lady right at the back there. Stembisa, do you have a microphone? Somebody there? Yeah.
Good day to all. My name is Ms. Basetsana Dintwe. What I would like to ask is, so this won't have an effect on the shipping costs, right? Like, for example, with the plants coming from the different, globally, that's what I mean, yes, for the businesses.
So you're talking about that this bill and the requirements on ships, it's not going to have an effect of adding a cost to the import of goods into South Africa. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the bill? No. All right, Mr. Kemp. I think it's quite a valid question that maybe you could just also expand. What are the real benefits of this bill? Because often when one goes to the coast, you find things washing up onto the beach at times. It obviously doesn't impact on general pollution. It's a pity because there's a lot of pollution that comes from pipes into the sea. But what are the real benefits of this? But I think the lady over there has asked a very important question as to the requirements. Is this going to add a cost to goods that are being imported and probably exported as well? Thanks, over to you.
Okay, my response is, can I go ahead? That these current annexures are currently being enforced internationally. So any vessel that calls into South African ports already has to comply with these two annexures. So any cost in compliance with these two annexures are already built in. So I don't foresee any additional costs. The reason we need these annexures is that if a vessel comes to our port and they're in violation of those annexures, we do not have an enforcement tool. So if a vessel comes in our port and burns fuel that is more than 0.5 sulfur content, there's really nothing we can do. So that's what it will not bring additional cost, import costs, because the vessels that are trading internationally, when they trade in the United States or any other country, they already have to comply with those annexures, so there should not be any justification for increasing costs. Come to Chair's question, the significance is that it's an enforcement tool, and in the absence of an enforcement tool, so as SAMSA, the South African Maritime Safety Authority, that's the benefit for the country, is that it's a deterrent. So it might not deal with stuff that's washing up aboard our coastline, but take, for example, sewage. If a vessel is pumping raw sewage along our coast, it will then influence the marine life along our coast, and obviously we want to deter that. And in the absence of Annexure 4, it is very difficult, not very difficult, it's impossible to enforce. I hope I've answered the questions.
Are you okay with that answer, ma'am? Okay. All right. Mr. Mbiso, I see a message. Yeah, no. Yeah, but there's a message come from transport officials who are on the Teams link. They can't hear. They can see the slides, but they can't hear anybody talking. And it's the team that's supposed to come on next. The hand that went up over there, are you wanting to talk on this bill? Is it on this bill, sir? Okay, please go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much, Chair. My name is Junior Langa. I would want to ask on this bill that it would not impact South African businesses because of, as a developing country, black businessmen and who come from a disadvantaged backgrounds are now only entering the ports and the business, So we want to know that if this bill is being pushed through, it won't affect these South African business owners who want to actually start into this. And another question I want to find out that how are these emissions actually measured? Yes, thank you so much.
No, thank you for that question. Those two questions, I think important questions. I think the first question was asking where small black-owned companies are wanting to enter the maritime industry and some of the services that are provided through the maritime industry. Will it have an impact on costs? I think you were saying. And then also the measurement of these emissions. I think you're asking, and that question you're asking, sir, is an important question because I've actually asked myself as well, how are we going to know if a ship is actually discharging waste into the ocean? And maybe in line with that question, maybe you could answer that as well, please. Thank you.
Okay, from the impact on small business entrance into the market, this bill is aimed at large vessels that trade internationally. So it won't, for a local business owner, it shouldn't impact them because it will impact on a large vessel over 500 gross tons, which is just a measurement of a vessel size that trades internationally. And so it should not impact on your local role players. Insofar as how emissions are measured, the annexures that I refer to, Annexure 4 and Annexure 6, it compels vessels to have equipment on board those vessels that record those emissions. And those emissions. So, for example, what we call a port state inspection, where I, as a surveyor, can go. They must produce those records for me. And if those records are of the annexure, then that 10 million that we brought in, we can fine them for that. I hope I've answered your questions.
All right, super. I think those are the questions on the for those questions. It's been recorded, and these are matters that we will, when the committee puts together a summary of the proceedings that we've had yet today, we will look as to whether there's anything that should be we should be making any the way it is. But I found your questions extremely interesting. And thank you for asking those questions, and thank you for showing an interest in this particular bill, even though it doesn't impact us here. But it does impact our country, because if pollution becomes to such an extent that it starts to harm the fish, it has a huge impact on not only on the country, but on fishermen, women whose living comes from catching fish from the oceans, and it has an impact on many. Thank you, Mr. Camp. I think those are really the questions, and I think you've taken note as well, and we will also take note when we deal further with these bills. But thank you very much for your presentation and input. Thank you so much. So there's one last bill we want to come to, and that is the sorry? I'll come to it now. The last bill that we want to look at is the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill. Now, Stambisa, the team from the National Department of Transport is online, but they said they couldn't hear. So I'm not sure if we've been able to fix that and correct that. When we have finished with this bill, and any questions on this bill, I'll come back to DDG Mokobani and his team just to answer the questions that have been asked. Thanks, DDG. Are they online? Can we hand over? All right. So I'd like to welcome to the there it is. Okay, they have joined us online from the National Department of Transport to deal with the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill. It's Advocate Matabesi and Muaketsi Sikudu, who are joining us online. I'm not sure who's doing the presentation, but if you could just indicate who's doing the presentation. Let's also just get it flattered online. Great, there it is, and over to yourselves.
Thank you so much, Honourable Chair. Good afternoon, honourable members, stakeholders, community members. We'd like to thank the opportunity to deliver a presentation on the TAT Amendment Bill. Advocate Mongesi Madegesi will deliver the presentation. He is the project manager on the project itself. So he is well equipped to deliver the presentation and to respond to whatever questions that were raised. We would have liked to physically join you, Chair and honourable members, but we were thinly stretched because there were 3 other public hearings which were arranged in Bobo Province, Israel, and so forth. So we basically had a short staff. So we couldn't join physically, but the delay of the meeting helped us to actually join the meeting online. We sincerely apologize for not physically joining you, but Advocate Matebisi will deliver the presentation. Thank you, Chair. I will try and share it now.
Okay, if I can give you 20 minutes, please. Is that all right? 20 minutes? Please proceed. It's 1:10. At 1:30, I will come in. We need to be finished within 20 minutes. Thank you.
Over to you, Advocate. Chair, he seems to be having a problem. Can I ask that the presentation be moved? We move to the next slide. I will take you through the presentation. presentation issues, appointment of members, extension of the period, and so forth, Chair. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The slides are not moving from my side.
Sorry, just hold on. We're just trying to figure out who's changing the slides. Just give us a second. Sorry about that.
Okay, no stress.
We just want to check the team there that's online. Are you not able to change the slides yourself? Just check, please. Yes. I don't know. Check up on that, okay?
Okay, let me check. I'll hold on.
Just give the team a minute or two to try and sort this out.
Okay, Chair, noted, Chair.
Okay, we'll try again and share it from this side. Okay, just don't do anything from your side.
Okay.
We are winning.
I can see the slide, Chair, slide 3, but it has just unshared.
Yeah, no, they're busy working on that. Just give them a minute. Sorry about that. I guess technology sometimes decides not to work when you need it most.
And strangely so, earlier on, Chair, I had signal problems. I had thought maybe I won't be able to even join you, so, but at least I can hear you now, so
Okay.
let's wait for the presentation, yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay. There seems to be a technical problem on this side in trying to flight it and then to change the slides. It doesn't seem to be moving. Is it possible, sir, that you could talk to your slides? They'll sort this out while you're busy presenting, but I'm just afraid if we just sit here, we're going to waste a bit of time. So what I want to suggest to you is talk to the slides. They'll get them up as soon as they can. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here for I don't know how long. Would that be all right with you?
That's fine with me, Chair. I'll try my best.
All right, please proceed.
Yes. Can you hear me, Chair?
So we can hear you.
Okay. As I indicated earlier on, we've got about 13 items.
Yeah, please proceed.
So
Thank
15
you.
items to talk through. In a nutshell, the Transport Appeal Tribunal Act of 1998, which is the principal act, was passed in 1998 to create the institution which is called the TAT, Transport Appeal Tribunal. Its purpose is to deal with appeals related to applications for operating license under the National Land Transport Act number 5 of 2009. And these appeals are mainly decisions that have been taken by the National Public Transport Regulator, the provincial regulatory entities, and the municipal regulatory entities. As the Act was acted in 2009, the MREs, which is municipal regulatory entities, is yet to be established. Like I indicated, that the TAT itself deals with decisions and appeals that have been made against the Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, the National Public Transport Regulator, and so forth, Chair. The next slide is about the main reasons for the amendment of the bill. In the main, the bill, as the TAT has been established, has encountered a number of problems and issues which requires amendment to the Principal Act. And the Principal Act also requires updating in respect of developments since 1998. There are a number of technical issues that need to be amended as well, Chair. And these problems and issues are addressed in the TAT amendment bill in short. The next slides are basically indicating the first column, its clauses, the second column, its sections related to each clause that would be amended, the third column, its amendments themselves, and the fourth column, it's the purpose or the reasons behind amending these clauses or sections. The first part of the explanation for amendments, it's the definitions. And under definitions, there are redundant definitions such as the board, interprovincial transport, and national land legislation. And the reason for basically amending these is that the board has been replaced by the regulatory entity according to the National Land Transport Act. And the interprovincial transport was only relevant to the appeal bodies, which no longer exist in terms of the national land legislation. The next area of the definition that needed to be changed was in relation to the Act itself, in relation to direction or decision. And this clarifies and expands the Acts in terms of directions and decisions, Chair. Then the next slide is in terms of Section 1B. So Section 1 under Clause 1B, where we're changing the definition in terms of including the Cross-Border Road Transport Act. And this makes it easier to read the Principal Act, which is the National Land Transport Act that I'm talking about, Chair. And the new definition here is included of the National Transport Act, because this was the act that I'm talking about that we are amending was developed and enacted in 1998. Hence, the National Land Transport Act needed to be included in the amendment bill. And like I said, the definition of the regulatory committee is amended. This is a consequential amendment. Then we are including a new definition for regulatory entity. In the main, it talks to the National Public Transport Regulator, it talks to the provincial regulatory entities, and thirdly, the municipal regulatory entities, which are as yet to be established. The amendment bill will remove the requirement that the minister must consult the 9 provincial MECs before appointing the TAT members. This has been a burden because it would take longer to basically put in place the TAT members. Hence, we are removing that clause, Chair. The amendment bill will provide that the TAT members must have expertise in public transport. The Principal Act didn't have this function or this responsibility of creating, of appointing members with public transport related matters. So we are including that definition there, Chair. And then in terms of clause 3, section 7.4b, the bill will allow the minister to extend the period of office of the TAT members for a period of not exceeding 12 months. Currently, the tenure of the TAT members, it's not longer than 3 years, so we would want to extend it by another year so that at least there's capacity in terms of the TAT members. Clause 4, section 9.1, which is the Principal Act, will be amended to provide that the Director General of the department must fix dates, times, and places for hearings of the TAT after consulting with the TAT, which is another clause that we are including here, Chair, and as part of the amendment bill. Then clause 6E, section 12.4a, the bill will empower the TAT to impose time limits within which decisions must be implemented once it has been made. And then clause 6F, section 12.5 and 6, the amendment bill will provide that a regulatory entity or regulatory committee fail to comply with decisions of the TAT may issue a directive or may describe what kind of implications will have for not implementing the decision of the TAT. It is often happens that the regulatory entities fail to implement or give effect to a ruling decision of the TAT within the time specified by the TAT, so which is a problem that we are trying to resolve here, Chair. Clause 7B, section 13B, the bill will provide that decisions against which will be suspended automatically where an appeal is lodged with the TAT within 30 days period. This is a consequential amendment, Chair. Then clause 8B, section 14.5, the bill will allow the TAT to investigate any delays or irrelevant actions taken by parties to an appeal and take certain steps to counter them as listed in the amendment bill. This is another additional clause that we are putting there. Then clause 9, section 16.1, the bill will provide that the DG must appoint officers in the department to perform administrative and secretarial work for the TAT, and the bill will also permit such staff to be appointed to undertake investigations that are necessary for the TAT to reach its decisions. Then clause 11, section 18, the amendment bill amends section 18 of the Municipal Act and effects consequential amendment. The reference to national land transport legislation is the Municipal Act is replaced with a reference to the Transition Act. Consequential amendment, another one as well there. Then in terms of various clauses, various consequential amendments, Chair, I would not bore you that much about those because they're quite minor. Chair, you have given a background in terms of the process that has been undertaken to reach the stage that we are at now. Just to summarize there, without taking much of your time there, the bill was published for comment in the Government Gazette on the 27th of October 2017. There were various workshops, national workshops held with government stakeholders as well as private sector stakeholders. We have held consultation with a number of entities such as the National Public Transport Regulator, Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, and so forth, Chair. So there's an of entities that have been consulted, including provincial departments and so forth. Right processes leading up to the approval by the National Assembly for further consultation, like we have consulted NETLE, serious framework for it. We have consulted a number of entities. We have gone through the board. We have gone through cabinet, like you've indicated, Chair. So lengthy discussions and consultations have taken place to be where we are at, Chair. So in terms of consultation, I think you will go through that, Chair, at your leisure. In terms of the impact of clause 56 of the Rail Safety Bill, that was raised under the discussion of the Railway Safety Bill. We would like to indicate that the objects of the Rail Safety Bill provides indeed for clauses 54 to 56 that talks to the different levels of appeals that are happening within the Railway Safety Regulator. So this clause will be adopted so that we don't create another institution, but the Transport Appeal Tribunal continues to address appeals that are raised against the Railway Safety Regulator, Chair. In conclusion, Chair, the report on the TAT Amendment Bill was on the other paper of the National Assembly, where it was deliberated upon and passed by the National Assembly on the 4th of March 2023 and referred to the Select Committee in accordance to the status of the Parliament's processing on bills 2023, 5th session, 6th Parliament, dated 8 September 2023, indicated that the TAT Amendment Bill should be with the NCOP as of the 7th of March 2023. In conclusion, the process of the Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill, further in accordance with the procedure established in Section 76 of the Constitution, the ultimate enactment of the TAT Amendment Act is crucial in regulating public transport in the country. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for taking us through. And sorry that there was a period where you were not able to hear, but we appreciate the fact that you've still been able to present the presentation. So I want to then check with members with our guests that are here. If there's anybody that wants to talk to this particular amendment bill, the Transport Appeals, hang on, let me just get it right. The Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill. It's a very technical bill, covers various issues that it's looking at, the terms of office, who appoints them, etc. But I just want to check if there's anybody here that would like to talk about this particular bill. All right, there's one hand at the back there. I notice your hand there, sir. All right, if we can get a microphone to the gentleman at the back on this Transport Appeal Tribunal Amendment Bill.
Dumela Chairperson, ke a o dumedisa. Ke tlo rata hore ke bolele easy ka Sesotho le sekgowa ke se a ntshabela. Ke nna Kgomo Jewel, and then ke dumedisa le bo botlhe ba ba leng ka mo. Potso tsa ka ke a ke sure ke tse itero hore ke tse thumara ke tla leka hore di lebellane le se ne ba sa address. Potso ya ka ya mathomo ke o botsa hore ba re latang ko gae ba di Uber ba tla kgona go ba fa di license na gore ba kgone hore ba tlo re lata ko gae ka gore ke re matsena ra tswafa re setse re tswafa matsena tswafo ya go di bus stop gore le bona ba kgone ba dumella gore ba nne le license tsa bona go tshwana le di-taxi re di tlwaetseng, and then gape le gore ba kgone gore ba be safe. A ke re ba no ra bona gore mo gongwe ba dumele mo ba ba betha dilo tsa tshwana le tseo. And then e nngwe gape e potso ke na leng yona chairperson ko gore bile e fitlhelele mo leveleng e le gore e tla kgona gore e tsamaelane le bophelo ba gona bjanong. Pele ne re latela dibese ko di bus stop, gone bjanong re bona dibese di isa bana ko mo dikolo ebile di ba emela. So ne ke kopa gore bile e le gore ga e lebelela seo e lebelele seo gore bophelo ba gona bjanong bo fitlhe mo ba reng ke evolution. A o sa tshwana le kgale o re le ko di bus stop re nela ke dipula batho ba nna ka mo dintlo wa founa fela. So ne ke kopa gore ba e lebelele, and then ga ba e lebeletse ba lebelele safety ya yona. Ba se ka no lebelela fela gore no e a e address gore batho ba tla lata ko magae mara bana ba ba se safe. O lebella o tshwanela gore bana ko ko ruling a ke tse ro hirala re tla mo nna ke tlhwa ke le Winterfeld ke bitsa gore mara re tlo kgone ka re wa le ko e ko ruling whatever se ba se lwelang is none of my business, but the business core safety ya batho e waits ke rata ke re ke a leboga ba tla tlhalosetsa chairperson se ke se boletseng ke a leboga ma speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. The questions that the gentlemen have asked might fall within the ambits of this amendment bill. Is the learner transport yeah, so let's just check if there's anything there. Otherwise, I might ask the provincial department to try and respond to some of those questions. But let me just check with the presenters of the bill.
Chair, thank you. Indeed, you are correct that the points that have been raised do not fall in the ambit of this amendment bill. In a nutshell, the bill is about dealing with appeals that would have been raised against the National Public Transport Regulator, against decisions of the provincial regulatory entities, and against decisions that would have been established the municipal regulatory entities. So it's not so much about safety issues or licensing, even though complaints could be made against decisions of provincial regulatory entities in issuing licenses. But the scope and focus of the bill, it's more about appeals and setting up the institution, the Transport Appeal Tribunal, Chair. Other than that, there's nothing further to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So I think we've come to the end of these three bills and this process of seeking comments here from anybody. And I think in particular, we've had some very interesting questions raised around the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill. Two very, very interesting questions. And we also had some questions around the Rail Safety Bill, which we'd want to welcome. And I think particularly with the Rail Safety Bill, when we deal with this next week as a portfolio committee and on our negotiating mandates, I sincerely hope that the committee support team will accurately reflect some of the comments that were raised so that we can see whether there's any need for us to put forward proposed amendments. But I do think that the committee support team will need to give us a very accurate reflection of the comments raised, particularly on the two bills, the Rail Safety Bill and the Marine Pollution Amendment Bill. Even if it does not warrant amendments, I think those comments are very valid and would need to form part of our proceedings and the record of our proceedings when we deal with the negotiating mandates. I think it's next week. So I would like to thank everybody that's spoken to these bills. Wait, hold on, please. No. I'm not taking orders. Who are you? I'm not closing the meeting. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm not closing the meeting, sir. Can you please allow me to finish speaking? Thank you. I did not say I'm closing the meeting. So you must please just bear with me. And I didn't see you, by the way. No, I'm busy. Sir, hold on. I'm not finishing the meeting. Please bear with me. Thank you. I am talking about the process around these three bills. And I said we have come to the conclusion of this process of the three bills we've been talking about. I didn't say the meeting's closed. So we've dealt with these three bills, and I'm asking, and I was trying to, before my train of thought has just been disturbed a little bit, I was saying that I'm hoping that the Portfolio Committee support team will accurately give us an accurate reflection of the comments that have been made on these bills. That's what I was saying, sir. Now, there are a number of questions that have been asked that did not relate to these bills, but related to transport matters. And I've asked DDG Mokobane and his team to make a note of those comments so that we can get some responses. I'll take your hand, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the session, and thank you very much for the invite. Sector from the e-hailing service. I want to ask the committee, particularly, you know, you work with other people that maybe you'll send this message to say, what's the delay for them to regulate the e-hailing service? Because the giant is in. We are in the industry. But you are taking time to regulate us. That's why at the end of the day, we end up fighting with other stakeholders because we use permits of other people. What's the delay for you as the government? You act like you don't see that our people are dying each and every day on regulation. We are not regulated. We don't regulate the price. But you have the government to regulate these apps so that at the end of the day, they can even pay SARS. So I want to know what's the delay from the government to regulate the industry of e-hailing. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, sir. And apologies, I didn't see your hand earlier. I wasn't looking at you. Doesn't look everywhere. But no, I'm not opening up for hands now. Hold on, please. Wait, please. I don't want to open up for hands. I think we've dealt with questions that needed to be asked. On your point, sir, I'm going to check if DDG Mokobane can give any answer. But I want the team from the committee support team to get the gentleman's name and details, because we are not government here. We are the Portfolio Committee. So we don't pass laws, etc., that would deal with e-hailing services. Wait, can you listen to me, sir? Can you listen to me? I'm asking DDG Mokobane, when he answers the questions that have been asked, if he might be able to give any clarification on it. And that's why I'm asking the team to get your details. So that if needs be, we will have to come back to you, all right, outside of this meeting. I don't want to leave your question hanging if DDG Mokobane can't help us with anything. That's what the point I'm getting to. So I will ask the team here just to get the gentleman's details. But DDG Mokobane, do you want to come up here? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, colleagues and community members that are present here. There was a question from, I forgot the name, but they were requesting the status of the Sedibeng DLTC and the Vereeniging intermodal. I'll start with those. On the Vereeniging intermodal facility, completed. And then we also indicated that we are starting with the Vereeniging intermodal facility as well. And we set the procurement, the contractor has been appointed to start with the works. And then on Sedibeng DLTC, to say that we are busy with the procurement of the consultant, the PSP. Those will assist with the determination of the scope of works, because as we have mentioned, what has been paid, what is outstanding, what has been done, and appoint the whole team. As I've mentioned in the report, we have got, it's unlike the road construction where we only use few consultants. There we are looking at the architects, the interior designs, we're looking at the engineers from structural to electrical engineers, the OHS and all that. So busy embarking on, and then we will be able to appoint the contractor. But it's also a concern from us. We are trying to fast report that we're estimating that in the next financial year, because the next financial year is just starting in April, so we should be able that the project will take plus minus 12 months, meaning finish within the next financial year or just over the financial year. Then another question was from Mamoloi, from, I think it's from, it was regarding the potholes, the grass cutting and the road markings on the roads. I can province, they are not within our jurisdiction, but they are within the. But what we are doing as the provincial department, we have what we call the forum, where we have all the municipalities, and we will definitely raise this matter with them. But in addition, that has been in our report, like for instance in Mfuleni, where the provincial department is intervening and assisting the municipalities. That includes the pothole patching. So we will take it as well and see how can we come together and assist. There was another question Mamloi asked to say, how do we get the, appoint the contractors such as grass cutters? Why are we not appointing the... So what we did, Honourable Chairperson and members, is that these are term contracts, especially with the grass cutters, is a term contract openly for everyone to take part within the procurement, to compete with the prices. So that all those that have bidded, but we then request our contractors to say, please put the local communities, as this is a program that has been rolled out by the Premier. So before we start with any, SMMEs are also submitting bids there. We use a community liaison officer. We have an engagement with the communities to participate within the program. I say that we do have a region there as well, the Tshwane region, where we are dealing with the provincial road, because we've got a serious challenge with the vandalism and the theft of the robots, copper cables. So that report, next week we're having a meeting with the municipalities where we will raise this issue. we will definitely raise the matter up, and we will also inform our five regional offices to please assist where they can with regard to the municipalities, and how are we going to deal with the roads within the municipalities, because they are not with the municipalities and the National Office Central through and of transport to deal with this issue of potholes that engaging with all the spheres of government. We do our part in resolving road.
Thanks, DDG. I want to just ask that I think it was the lady in front asked about the grass cutting and how do people get chosen for the grass cutting in Sedibeng. I think it was in Sedibeng. Was it Orange Farm? Orange Farm, okay. Can I ask that you maybe just have a chat to the DDG afterwards, because he would also be able to guide you. If it's in terms of your own company, how do you get registered? How do you get onto the database? What is the process, etc. Afterwards, and just to guide her and put her in the right direction. I'm not sure if it was on that particular matter, if that's all right. I just want to then say on the issue of Inikuruleni, a few weeks ago when we dealt with the appropriation bill, adjustment appropriation bill. I think you were there with us. Question about roads in Hammanskraal. And the MEC did indicate that it's part of the plans of the department. It's on the plans of the department. But what I think we would like to ask DDG next week, because it's our last portfolio committee, we just want to then understand exactly where on the plans and when will the department be able to deal with the roads in Hammanskraal. Because it's a matter that has continuously been raised and the department is aware, and I know I have raised it with the MEC as well, the need to roads. So if we can just get an update on that as a portfolio committee. End of our committee meeting. And I just want to indicate something. So the questions that have been asked here. Oh, sorry. Whoa, hang on. I forgot about the Deputy Director General. My apologies. He's going to reply on the question you've raised, sir, about the regulation of e-hailing services. DDG, over to you, please. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Chair. And just to say, I'm obviously representing the Department of Transport. And just to say to Hector that the Department of Transport takes the regulation of e-hailing services seriously. And you'll know that there was a process on the National Transport Amendment Bill, which was consulted across. And just to give the update is that the bill have passed through both houses of parliament, which is the National Assembly and then COP, is now currently being submitted to the president for it to be signed into law. So once it does that, that process is done of following and obviously consulting with the industry. That's all that I wanted to say, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Deputy Director General. I think that certainly gives some clarity to the question that's asked. The point I wanted to get to as we conclude, the questions that have been asked here today, and some of our own questions, maybe I must just indicate, the committee comes to almost an end next week. We probably have one meeting after that. But all of these matters that have been raised here about the various other matters, Hammanskraal roads, and all the other issues that have been raised, we will be following up on these. So whilst the committee's program comes to an end, because we're going into here in the Sedibeng, should I say, we will be coming back here just to have a look assess whether indeed the contractors are on site at the phase 2 of the taxi rank upgrade. So on that note, I want to then bring this meeting to a close. I would like to ask those who have got headsets, please back. Secondly, I want to just indicate that lunch for everybody is served out the back. If you go out the door, turn to the right. I understand lunch will be served over there. For members, we are going from here to the taxi rank, the 2 taxi ranks. Roads, we'll go and have a look as well. Thank you very much to all of you for attending. We appreciate your attendance. I'd like to express our... Sorry, quieten down. All right. I'd like... No. All right, let me continue. Thank you very much. Led by the Deputy Director General and the team for your participation here today. Thank you also to the Provincial Department of Transport for having been here today. I'd like to thank all the service providers, the interpretation services at the back and the interpreters. Thank you very much. Thank you to, I'd like to express your appreciation to the members of the committee for your participation here today, those online, and thank you very much team for your assistance. Members, the committee meeting is adjourned.